Now it's warmed up, I can do a better skid ski. That was a good one. Hey guys, I have had my Mukkpet e-bike for a month now, a little over a month now. I've gone 62 miles on it. I've only had to charge it 2 times. So the first time when I initially got it, I charged it. It got down to about 30% at about 35 miles, and that's with a lot of really steep hills, driving through grass, towing stuff around, and always being full throttle. So I filled it up again, I charged it all the way back up at 35 miles, and then just last night I charged it again because again, it was just under half and I didn't want to go all the way to 0. But I think the range is, it says I think 60 to 120 is the advertised range, which I think is, if you're going to be in like mode 2 or 3 and go 15 or 20 miles an hour and it's very flat, you could probably make that happen. But for me and my kids, we like to go through grass, up and down hills, and we're always full throttle on it, just putting this thing through its paces. And we're still getting 35 or 40, I guess 30, 35 miles, and then we're down at like 30%. So while you're riding and you're really getting on it, you'll see the energy bar, or there's a bar across the top, and it's down at like the 25 or 20% mark, but then when you let off the throttle, it goes back up to the 30, 35% mark. So when it's drawing current, the voltage drops a little bit, and then once it settles, it comes back up and shows you what the battery's really at. So I think we're probably, we probably had another 15 miles to go on it, or 10 miles to go on it. But also when it's below half, it gets a little bit more sluggish. It's not at that peak high voltage that it was when the batteries were fully charged. So I think the mileage is not as good as the advertisement if you're really getting at it, but I don't think that's what the advertisement is trying to say. So I have yet to go out and just ride for 60 miles at 15 miles an hour, because that sounds brutally boring. That's 4 hours of just riding. And unless you have somewhere really to be, that's not something I'm willing to do. I will say the couple things that I have learned to love more and more about this bike. The headlight, it is awesome. If you're riding at night, the headlight is really bright. You can see like everything you need to see out in front of you. If you're going 20 miles an hour, you don't feel like you can't see far enough to stop if something were to come up. And then the fact that it has a taillight and brake lights is fantastic. So when you do go to stop, cars behind you will see that. You have blinkers. I don't use them too often because more often than not, I leave them on accident because it's not like a car where once you turn and come back, it turns off. You got to remember to turn it off. But it is a pretty useful feature to have turn signals on an e-bike. The brakes, I think, are one of the top of the line things about this bike. They're hydraulic disc brakes. They work really well. They don't make a whole lot of noise unless it's like wet and they got wet and overnight they flash rust, but you just ride them and hit the brakes 1 or 2 times and then that all clears right off. They don't drag. Every once in a while you hear it a little bit, but the way these pads work is there's just a little metal tensioner that pushes them away. So sometimes when you brake, one of them will catch a little bit when you're letting off the brake and it'll rub, but then next time you use the brakes and let go, it comes right off. So if you ever do hear noise from your brakes, just pump them a couple times and more likely than not, the noise is going to go away. I will say the front suspension has a lot of travel. It's really good. The rear suspension does not flex quite as much. Well, it doesn't flex much unless you hit something really hard like a curb. But the fact that you got these big old fat tires, that takes up so much of the slack. So it's a comfortable bike. You want to go right around the yard, do our racetrack? We'll put the camera out there. Sure. Let's do it. Too much power. I was giving it the beans.
You good?
I'm good, bro.
What is this?
It was too much power, bro. I went over the hill and I tried to do a wheelie and I was full on the gas. Ah! Grah!
What is coming?
How about an endo?
It's over!